Olivia Rodrigo is back and with a story to tell in her most conceptual and narrative album yet, and it's amazing. She's one of the best songwriters in music today, and an album like this really proves it to me. And by the end of this video, you'll feel the same way as we go through the story of You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So In Love. Get comfy, listen along, and grab some tissues, because it's a journey, and in typical Olivia Rodrigo fashion, it's heartbreaking and gut-wrenching in her most mature and nuanced way yet. Every good story has a beginning, middle, and end, and our story begins with the butterflies, anxiety, and light of infatuation and new love on Drop Dead. The song captures the fantastical feeling of falling for someone and being head over heels for them before the first date is over, and even before it. But before we dive into any specifics, it's worth knowing that this album does pull from real life, as you might expect, and there's tons of little references that show that. Basically, the entire album making process was during her relationship with British actor Lewis Partridge, starting back in 2023. Hence the different beer and Guinness references, or the various London or UK nods that come from her time living there with him. Spoiler for the album, but things don't work out in the end, and we'll find out how she deals with it all as we go through this story. Now obviously, their relationship should be private, and not everything is a direct parallel. Some things just make for a good story, but I think it's useful context to have, knowing that a lot of these stories come from a real place. Back to our story though, this guy's perfect, and makes her see love in a whole new light as love songs take on a whole new meaning of relatability after meeting him. But like I said, this feels more like infatuation with a sprinkling of obsession. Not the movie, but I actually think it's not a bad comparison. Because Olivia wanted to capture the dark side of love on this album, or the grey area and nuance between loving somebody and hating somebody. So many things can be true at once, and love isn't always healthy. So despite her feelings being true or pure, there's danger to them, and it foreshadows the unhappiness of her relationship as nothing can match her fantasy. This date is played out a million times in her head before it actually happened, and maybe long before she even met this guy, and it feels surreal that it's finally coming true. But there is the briefest moment of awareness where she thinks it might be too good to be true. He's as perfect as an angel to her, and she has the paranoia that this is all some dream she'll wake up from. But at the same time, she's never felt more alive. These feelings, this swelling of love and infatuation, is a rush. And to love and be loved is to feel alive and be alive as a quintessential human thing. But if things became any more perfect and things escalated to a picturesque kiss to really make her dreams reality, it might be too much to handle and give her a heart attack from loving and feeling too much. And it shows how real and peaked her feelings are as anticipation and excitement meet. And without needing any more dates or time to tell if it's real, Olivia's ready for more and truly head over heels for this guy. While I'd love to touch on every line and eloquently paint every picture of the story, imagining it for yourself is even more beautiful. And I don't want this video to be 2 hours long. But I'll leave a link to my notes that I made while making this video in the description if you're interested. I just wanted to touch on the bridge before we moved on, and specifically the star signs, Pisces and Gemini. Making this story even more true, Olivia's a Pisces and Lewis is a Gemini. And famously, apparently, these signs are not romantically compatible at all, except when they're perfect for each other. And as a huge believer in astrology, Olivia clearly feels this way, and her feelings being this instant and natural just prove that. This is meant to be. Our next song is Stupid Song, and I think it chokes me up the most. In our narrative, this is after their first date, and maybe before they've officially gotten together. And it was actually written after an early morning walk around New York City when she was jet-lagged and couldn't sleep while being plagued with the anxiety of living in such a chaotic city as famous as she is. But it was liberating and beautiful and unraveled these thoughts while serving as a vivid backdrop. And like we've seen from Olivia in the past, she has a horrible tendency of comparing herself to others, people she feels in competition with, like other girls her age who live different lives or experience different things. But as we see at the start of both verses here, it's not a point of pain for her anymore, despite it still lingering on her mind. While they're out partying and living a young, wild life, she's having this quiet, lonely, and private moment walking the dead streets of a spirited city, a side of the city that goes unnoticed. But instead of feeling shame, regret, or insecurity, she has love in her mind in this introspective moment, where her mind races with thoughts of their next date and every time she speaks with him. The song is littered with deep lines and metaphors that try to express this feeling she has, and to me it's super noticeable that she can't define it in simple terms, or ways that make sense on a human level. Honest love is a beautiful sentiment, and meant to mean without any frills or lies. It's as pure as it gets, and only that type of love can be so freeing and perfect. And a cage isn't thought to be comfy or freeing, but rather the opposite. And depending on your perspective, its restriction is either security or entrapment. I think the exclusivity of real love can feel like a safety blanket wrapped around you, providing comfort and security. But love can also be a key to the cage of performance and repression. They say that true love and acceptance in a healthy and safe relationship lets you be your authentic self in a brave and liberating way that's so rare in public and with other people. And the chorus is filled with tons of lines like this that try to put her feelings into words. And they don't all fit and match each other. Love isn't that simple, like a last piece of a puzzle, but all of these things are true. She's recklessly and uncontrollably in love, and it is such a rush and so freeing, but there's no way for it to stop other than it crashing and burning and going wrong. But she's also soft and vulnerable, being warmed by him and his love, until she's melted down and deconstructed, which will pop back up later. And just like their shedded clothes, they too are becoming unraveled and stripped of their disguises, masks, and protections as they fall into each other's honest love. Like I said before, Olivia wanted to dive into the grey space of love, and this song was specifically inspired by Annie Ernaux's novel, Simple Passion. In that book, a woman has an affair with a married man whose love for him completely rules her life. It makes her crazy. And more than being physically attracted to someone or loving them honestly, love can make you act like a crazy person, and I've already seen signs of this in the first two songs. And Olivia said that pure romantic love is so hard to express in a song, and it's much more profound to play into that feeling as she has here. Words can't express, and a song isn't enough. But from the whirlwind of stupid song, we move into the calm, swaying sweetness of Honeybee. It has the drop-dead feeling of being light, airy, and dreamy, and that's how she describes her love. And it really is a simple love song, even for her songwriting standard. And you can actually watch her break down this song herself on her YouTube channel, but there's a couple things I wanted to point out too. The song really serves as the start of their official relationship to me. It's proof that their relationship is real, and not this one-sided, unrequited love from an insane Olivia who's fawning over him. Again, love is a tough thing to express in words, but Olivia wants him to know that her love for him is unconditional and unending. Another unique feature of this album is Olivia exploring a love that isn't frivolous or youthful. It's the story of a love that she feels like is her first, at least in a mature and grown level. And you learn so much about yourself and about love in this type of relationship. And something that she learned is that so much of love is in the quiet moments. So much of love doesn't need to be said, but is shown and felt, and this foreshadows the song to come like begged. The best parts of love come naturally and don't need a whole song and dance, and shouldn't need to be prompted. But even in this song of officially being together and Olivia's dreams coming true, the thought of them one day breaking up creeps into her mind. And the chords of the song capture this duality and the album title perfectly, as it blends both the beauty and sadness of love. But that line preludes the sweetest lines of the song. She never wants to know what breaking up with him looks like because he's the man that she could spend her entire life getting to know. And my favourite 3 words from the entire album, "Here's to hoping," could be plastered all over the cover of the album, because it's the most beautiful and heart-wrenching way you could describe it. It's sweet, but unmistakably laced with fear of the stakes and what could be lost, and just being left with hope. She's described a relationship like a beautiful flower. You can tend for it and love it and really hope that it doesn't die, but that's part of what makes it beautiful. The song reflects everything changing from mine and yours to ours, or from I to we. When you love someone, the line between you and them can become so thin. And as our next song explores, this can be a slippery slope. Maggots for Brains is a love song of codependency and losing yourself in your love for another person. It perfectly captures that dark side of love and the insanity of it. Olivia is so obsessed with this guy and their love that she doesn't know who she is outside of their relationship or when they're apart anymore. She's a husk of herself. A song or perspective like this really reminds me of Sylvia Plath, which maybe says more about my limited knowledge of poetry, but shout out Year 11 literature. There's such a thing as loving too much, and negative effects coming from overwhelming love, and how it can lead to an addiction, where withdrawals like this can eat you alive. She can't function normally without him, and I'm sure any psychology experts out there could diagnose this pretty easily. I think more clearly than any of the songs before, we see the cracks and problems of this relationship, while there have been hints before. We also see what role Olivia plays in this, or rather the state of her mental health, which becomes a bigger emphasis and elephant in the room as the story goes on. Life is missing its luster without her partner around, and while that could be seen as sweet and romantic, it should be frightening and a wake-up call. And in the second verse, Olivia continues her imagery of decay from the chorus, extending from zombie, rotten, dirty, shell, maggots, brain, and now moldy fruit. It's like a piece of her is dying or dead without her other half around. But the darkest part of the song comes in the final couplet of the verse, and captures more of that Sylvia Plath energy. Olivia says that when she feels especially alone during this time, she wishes that some harm would come to her because she knows that he'd rush back to be there for her. It shows how insanely in love she is to a scary and self-harming level. And this song is crucial in our story as it lays the foundations for what's to come, as this disease takes root in her brain and begins festering. leading to the relationship's decay, rot, and expiration. But we have a few more songs to go before we're supposed to switch the side of the disc into the You Seem Pretty Sad half of the album, because we're still a girl so in love on You Plus Me equals love forever. Now that they're both together, she's still head over heels for him, and their love is way beyond anything superficial. She'd have dinner at McDonald's with him if he asked, as long as they're together. From the outside, a relationship like this can look insufferable or worrying, and her friends are starting to feel this way, but Olivia brushes them off. Rushing into love time and time again can be damaging, but being a lover girl or lover boy is being someone who falls in love hard and fast every time, no matter what other people think. And Olivia doesn't care what other people think, even her friends. She's all in and in love. Maybe she's developed a reputation amongst her friends of being too quick with love, but only you know how you feel. And Olivia feels like this love is mending her wounds and replacing those scars with happier memories of good love. But just as time can heal wounds, time can also cause people to change. And while she appreciates the healing of time, she doesn't want it to change them or him, because what they have is perfect to her and anything else might not be. In a song like Purple to Come, we hear that their love and life becoming so confined and stationary was part of what killed their relationship. They had nothing outside of it. And knowing this, you can see her sowing her own downfall here by not knowing any better, and being a little naive, scared, and protective of love. And that sort of naivety or immaturity is shown through the idea of carving their names into the leather of their car seat, which is a little atypical of the usual wet cement or tree in the woods, but shows the severity and seriousness of her love. It's borderline insane, but again goes to show how much she loves him and wants it to last forever. And she's doing everything in her power to not be the reason it falls apart, like making sure she gets along with his sister so she's perfect in his family's eyes. Maybe she's done this whole song and dance with every guy before him, but right now, she's never loved anyone more than him. My Way brings a whole different vibe to the album and is one of the angrier songs on it, with Olivia attacking her man's ex-girlfriend. I don't think she ever thought she'd act like this or had a jealous bone in her body and it annoys her, but it's the raw feeling of being territorial and feeling threatened. It's making her catty and insecure and she hates it. But to Olivia, she's an ex that crosses lines. She should feel secure and loved in this relationship but feels the need to fend her off. And it gives me the impression that her man doesn't see a problem with still being friends with her, kinda making Olivia out to be crazy. But again, with maturity being such an emphasis of this album, it seems like another moment of her not practicing that or knowing better. But that's part of the story too. Learning and growing through life and experience, as we'll see. It reminds me of older Olivia Rodrigo music and the schoolgirl combative element, or to use another negative archetype of love, the possessive girlfriend. Not to say it isn't justified, because it seems like it is here. And rather than her being insane, Olivia calls the ex insane for not getting the memo and moving on, while she continues lingering like a bad smell. And sending him paragraphs of apologies or reasons why they should get back together. Or making subtle threats, like making posts online of her wearing clothes he left behind at her house, which is added to her wardrobe. But regardless of those petty acts, Olivia feels like she's won the petty war, because she's the one who can call him her boyfriend. And maybe it's childish to air out a story like this, attack another girl and rub victory in her face, but she started it. But Purple is the turning point of the album and story. It's a moment when Olivia begins to unravel and see the flaws of her relationship for herself. Maybe we've seen the signs since the start, but when you're so deep in it, it's blinding. And to that point, it's not something she wants to run from. But she's now realizing that she's lost a big part of herself by fusing with her partner and developing this codependency for their love and her idea of love. They were once red and blue with their own thoughts, feelings, fears, and dreams, but now everything she sees is purple. They were once two lines, leading their own lives, and instead formed a circle to live one. Love and intimacy brought them together for better or worse. But life as a circle can't be that great. You live a cyclical life that repeats and stays stuck in one place when it used to move forward. Their relationship is stagnant and bound to burn out. Spending so much time together, Olivia assimilated so much of his life into hers that it's become the only life she still knows. Purple's an important colour in Olivia Rodrigo's discography. It's the primary colour of her debut and sophomore album, and while you might think that this third album is a departure from that, it's actually not. Well, it is. But this album's two main colours are different shades of the red and blue she sings about here, baby pink and sky blue, and they would combine to make a pretty purple. Colour is a really interesting way to view their relationship. It was once something beautiful, but over the course of this story, it's muddied. More colours have spilled in or drained that colour until it's turned into a black ichor devoid of love, vastly different from that youthful love, infatuation, and obsession that started the album with so much hope. And with their two lives merged into one, they've become this amalgamation and blob of a couple, losing themselves and being a worrying sign to everybody else. And a world of two people can feel so incredibly small and lonely, despite what it's meant to be and what it's meant to cure Olivia of. The outro brings back the idea of melting. While we might be screaming, "Run, girl, run," she's committed to him and this love that's destroying her. She's sticking with him until the passion of their love's sun rays disintegrate her heart and burn their purple into black nothingness. She's at her wit's end and almost defeated. It's almost like, what's the point of giving up now? Every attempt to fix it feels too little, too late. The question is, did they mess up, or was it always destined to end like this? She's becoming numb to their love and their life they've built. And the final word of the outro fittingly winds out the first half of the album, letting us sit with it until the second half takes us on a more sinister and tragic journey. And this unraveling continues with The Cure. Olivia's beginning to spiral, and this song is her realizing that love and a relationship are not going to cover up the cracks of her mental health and solve every problem she has in her life. This might have been a real conversation she had. When we're young, we glorify love and so many other things, thinking once we get it, we'll be happy. But there's a huge problem with quantifying our happiness and putting it behind different requirements or prerequisites. Like saying, I'll be happy when I get my dream job, or this car I really want, or a loving partner. We're bound to end up disappointed by thinking it's as simple, and you have to find happiness in whatever you do and wherever you are in your life, let alone the expectation and pressure it puts on these things. Like seeing a relationship as the cure to your depression. Is it your partner's fault if it isn't? It can lead to resentment and just more and more issues that weigh on you. And that's what Olivia's battling here. She loves this guy, and their relationship has been great, so why isn't she happy? But those poisonous thoughts and insecurities still swirl around in her head. She might have been able to numb it or overpower it with this love for a while, but it's still there, and only she can fight it and fix it. And that's the beautiful part of this story, as it subverts the typical sad love song. It isn't love turned to hate, it isn't about an abusive or toxic relationship, but it's still not enough for a variety of reasons without one person being the bad guy. Her loneliness, self-doubt, low self-esteem, and constant comparison fuel her depression. And while she naively thought that perfect love with her perfect man could cure her, she learned a more valuable truth, that she has to work on these things alone and that no other person is going to magically fix or solve her. Locking happiness behind a door will seal it away forever. And this experience, no matter how defeating it can feel, is teaching her that she needs to find it without relying on other people. It would be nice and much easier if this guy's love was enough to patch her up and stop this unraveling. But she has to learn how to love herself. The idea of this being a perfect thing up until this point, outside of Olivia's mental war, comes crashing down, or is at least questioned here on Begged. It seems like our last two songs and updates in the story reveal Olivia becoming disillusioned with this love, and the rose or purple tinted glasses that she's had on, and can now see more of their problems. We know about Olivia's insecurities, and combining irrational self-doubt and the threat of an ex lingering and returning leaves her uncertain and scared. She wants to be unabashedly owned, claimed, and championed as her man's girlfriend, and really feels secure in that, trusting him completely, but she just can't. And even while her needs go unchecked, she stays, because she's so utterly devoted to him and their love, for better or worse. She doesn't want to be the one to give up on it. She might view herself as needy, or perhaps that's how he's made her feel, along with dismissing her concerns about his ex. And maybe he feels comfortable doing this because he knows how devoted she is, and takes advantage of that, or at least takes it for granted. Because neither of them are perfect and have it all figured out. The chorus captures the song's core message that could be a metaphor for all things, not just in the game of love. Things lose their value when they're begged for, as opposed to earned, or they come naturally. Romantic gestures are the first thing that come to mind. Having to beg for a nice dinner date, holiday, or even simple little things feels so much better when they're not asked for, but happen anyway. But the same thing could apply to wanting love. At the start of the album, Olivia obsessed over the idea of falling in love and what it could bring to her life that she almost willed it into existence. But maybe it would feel better if she didn't desperately want it so bad and that it truly came out of nothing like a real fairy tale. A key part of this album, and this song specifically, is Olivia wanting to talk about love and relationships with more nuance than ever before. Because there's a lot of it in relationships. It's not a clear-cut answer or equation. So many things play a part. Maybe this guy fell short, but maybe her expectations were too high. Who's right or wrong for that? Do they both deserve blame, or is anyone even in the wrong? It's a view that she's only recently felt mature enough to explore, only developing the emotional capacity for it in this relationship. Like she said, all of these things can exist at once. You can be in love and feel insecure or depressed. But these thoughts are even more potent and harmful late at night while she lies alone, especially when she should be sharing that bed with her distant partner. And it leaves her feeling trapped in this relationship and life that she previously welcomed with open arms, left to wonder if this is how love goes. She's fighting the anxiety of trying to resuscitate and keep a love alive that feels so hopeless and dead. And it's killing her. She's overwhelmed and emotionally starved. Something has to give. But despite it all, she clings onto whatever's left. There's beautiful imagery of snow on mountaintops and how one moment of carelessness from him can melt away her hope. Every time she gets less than she deserves and wants, it feels like more and more of a lost cause. And that melted snow might one day become an avalanche that breaks up their bond and relationship. I don't know how avalanches work. But as this love and story flips, so do some of the terms she once used in positive and wholesome ways. Like melting, which once reflected love's warm embrace, tenderness, and vulnerability. But here, it's evaporating into nothingness or anger. And just like a penny at the bottom of a fountain, she's just waiting for a wish to come true. For her unattentive lover to give her the attention she craves. And that feeling doesn't let up on What's Wrong With Me with Robert Smith. She's trapped in her head, out of body, and searching for answers. Why is her body racked with anxiety and her mind plagued with depression when she's supposed to be waltzing with her man in a field of sunflowers to honeybee? She's on an emotional edge where a movie is enough to make her burst into tears. And despite all the signs pointing to it, she doesn't want to accept or admit that this love is the problem. It's a heartbreaking thing. What she once thought was the antidote has become the poison. She instead lies to herself, trying to believe that she's still in love and that it's enough, but it's really just causing her even more pain than what she's already feeling. I don't think she means to blame her boyfriend and their love as much as it sounds like she does here. But going back to that nuance, she might be pinning parts of her problems on him so she doesn't have to face it herself. Or maybe she's doing the opposite, and that last line of the chorus isn't directed to her partner at all, but herself and her rotting brain. Either way, alarm bells are ringing, and it's becoming harder and harder to block them out. The end is coming. This fresh love used to paper over the cracks of Olivia's mental health, but it could only cover it for so long before it took control again, and she risks losing herself if she doesn't fix things, make it work, or end it. It's only worsening, and she's headed into a dark and dangerous place. Something has to change. And something does, unless. This song feels like it could go so many ways, and it's confusing to me, but I think it's on purpose. As I've said, we're not dealing with black and whites. A lot of things can be true at once. For the third song in a row, Olivia's bedridden with these thoughts that leave her feeling like a husk of herself. It's a recurrence letting us know that it's not going to fix itself. She'd rather keep hoping that another day will fix it, but how long can she keep saying that? In this case, she says it to shut him up and get him off her back about it. That way she doesn't have to deal with this uncomfortable situation and face the music. But in the ultimate act of love, her partner does the toughest thing either of them can do, and that's be brave enough to end the relationship for her sake and each other's. 90% of this album up until now has been Olivia in love, and things being mostly great in her mind. Not every relationship is perfect, and it's insane to think they can be, and this is something she learns through this relationship, being someone so wide-eyed with love and hopeful in the beginning. The reason for this breakup is not a lack of love, that's obvious. Maybe it's the right person at the wrong time, or maybe the wrong person at the wrong time, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to hate them for it. That's the nuance that Olivia was chasing. It's the conflicting feelings and tragedy of love versus the beauty or rage. So this breakup is insanely bittersweet. She's devastated, but it's what she needs. Should they stay together miserably or hurt to try again? The most loving act you can do in a situation as dire as this with the writing on the wall is to sever the tie and set them free. Going their separate ways is seemingly the cure she needs to feel better, regain herself, and have a better chance at love in the future when she's healed and worked through her depression. If their relationship is the problem, as somebody who loves her and knows how happy she can be, he can't keep her chained to him. He'd rather sacrifice their love so that she can heal and ultimately do better because he loves her that much. And that's the heartbreaking thing about it to Olivia. He really loves her, and so does she. It would have been easier for her to call it quits and see the signs sooner and act on them if he was a worse partner. And this breakup would have been so much easier if he loved her less. If their feelings weren't so strong, it would hurt so much less. They've tried so many things to recapture the magic of their first date that made Olivia so happy and hopeful as she was. By forcefully trying to recreate the magic of that first date, it shows the bitter downfall of this once fantastical love that felt like a fairy tale and a dream to a nightmare. No location, dream date, or grand gesture can fix her, and after trying to fight it for so long, her fears of the past 5 songs are becoming her reality. And it painfully ends with a departure and distance as her cross-Atlantic boyfriend leaves for good, leaving her crying on the curb of LAX. Timing matters a lot in the final 2 songs, and Expectations appears to be less than a month after their wintry breakup as the new year beckons. It's an upbeat and vindictive song that really stands out in between 2 sad, slow songs. It just makes me think that this is an act or attempt to win the breakup. Or maybe it's completely different and a story of her moving on and all the guys she's been with since him. I say all that because the opening verse, and the whole song really, is her acting like, I don't know what I saw in this guy, he sucked. And there's the duality of this mindset being a youthful pitfall she's running from on this album, while taking something valuable from its experience, expectations. Olivia said that love and relationships teach you more about yourself than anything else in life. And if she felt emotionally starved and otherwise incompatible in ways from hobbies to what's acceptable, this relationship has taught her what she wants moving forward, and it's going to make it way easier to find the right man in the future. But it is a stark switch from less, and I think the repetition of more in the pre-chorus is an intentional follow-up and link. She's learned what she deems non-negotiable in love. That way she will only sign up for what she deserves and not waste her time and energy on people who aren't ever going to be enough. Now this is where we could take some narrative freedom to fill in some gaps. Maybe this isn't a flippant 180 of being like, wait, fuck this guy. And maybe less is the right place to leave that relationship for now. Maybe everyone she calls out here are the guys she's tried since him and is now having an easier time of not wasting her time now that she knows what she wants. Either way, love and experience have taught her how to be more selective, and also stripped her of that desperation or mindless obsession that she scarily showed at the start of the album. And she's confident that she'll land on her feet and find the right guy who treats her right and has her endless well of emotions catered to, given the validation, affirmations, and reassurances she needs. Regardless of how hard she tries to run from it, the memories of the past stay with her, and we see that on our final song, Cigarette Smoke. We can make remnants and reminders out of anything, from the noise of the shower running to a beer in the fridge. It's hard for her to move on, despite the front she put on or growth she showed in the immediate aftermath and last song, Expectations, because like all of our fears, problems, and insecurities, we have to face them. And some things might never leave you, but I'm sure Olivia felt the same way about the scars of the broken hearts before him that healed throughout this love. Our metaphor of cigarette smoke captures the toxic leftovers everybody has to live with post-breakup. Baggage is part and parcel, and all that matters is what you do with it. And I like the idea of this song's pre-choruses actually being directed to herself, at least the first iteration of it. She regrets that she wasted her own time by not leaving sooner. She stuck around hoping her feelings and thoughts would magically fix itself, thinking that she was being virtuous and a good person for sticking through it, when in reality it was killing her. And despite knowing that deep down, she wasn't brave enough to be the one to call it quits. Her man loved her enough to set her free himself. She resents herself for not treating herself better and doing what she knew needed to be done earlier, but has learned from this, and that's all that matters. That's a more optimistic way to view their love and relationship and accountability that she takes away from it. But it's entirely fair for her to feel the same way about him, especially if the relationship wasn't as idyllic as she felt it was in hindsight. It would be a big change from her concluding thoughts of him in a song like Less, but shows how she's evolved and wiped away the tears of love that ultimately made her continue to hurt herself. And once again, this blurry perspective can reflect the many feelings of love and heartbreak, and is very much fitting our story. So you could listen to this song through either lens, and while I like the self-reflective angle, there are parts that feel like her gaze is fixed right on him. But all that's left are these memories. And in a chilling line, maybe it was all too good to be true, and his truth and honesty will tarnish any of the good memories that she's left clinging onto. She hopes that these memories char and burn like their love did, becoming dark and ruined, melting into the same black nothingness that their purple did. And it seems like it was doomed from the very start, where Olivia's initial effort had become weaponized against her. She was so giddy and utterly in love at the start that she would bend over backwards for it. And as this love faded away and her insecurities controlled her, she pulled back and was blamed for it. At the opposite end of the album, from a love that was so sweet, fulfilling, and perfect, it became the complete opposite. Bone dry, bitter, and hollow. You could say that the relationship aged or decayed from sweet to sour. And as the song and album closes out in a haunting outro with a somber and tragic ending, the memories play in her head and she just wants them to fade out and end. I don't think I'll ever be the same. That was a beautiful and twisted album, and while I love my angsty punk pop rock from Olivia, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So In Love is such a great full-bodied album. And for someone like me who loves a good story and conceptual album that's more than a great playlist, I'm so glad we got it. And I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two, or loved this album just a bit more. Also, if you interpreted any of these songs differently, or even the album itself, let me know, because I think you could take it in a lot of different ways. And please do check out my notes on it, because I'd love to ramble about all the possibilities that came to mind, but tried to keep succinct for this video, and hopefully under 30 minutes or so, and this recording is at 29, 51, 52, 53. I'm losing my voice. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Have a great day or night.